Clarity starts for LA skipper Dave Roberts.
Jack's been really good for us. That last start was standing. Yamamoto will start game 2.
Garrett Cole has been named the game 1 starter for the Yankees on Friday. Some sad news for the Dodgers family. Pitcher Fernando Valenzuela passed away at the age of 63.
Fernando Valenzuela has pitched a no-hitter. If you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky.
That was Vin Scully on the call. Valenzuela helped lead the Dodgers to the 1981 World Series. He was also the NL Cy Young and Rookie of the Year award winner. He pitched in the majors for 17 seasons and had been a Spanish-language broadcaster for the Dodgers since 2003. No cause of death was announced.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
October is ending, but I want to keep the fall fun going. So I shopped Kohl's lowest prices of the season. I saved 30% on top active brands like Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. Then I got my kids some boots for under $22. Scored 50% off Food Network baking must-haves, and earned Kohl's cash. Yeah, it doesn't get better than Kohl's. Flex styles. Offers end October 27. Coupons do not apply to Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Progressive presents good news, bad news, dumb news, then great news. Good news. Your coworker Kyle said bundling home and auto insurance with Progressive could save you money. Bad news. While saying this, Kyle was eating your clearly labeled lunch. Dumb news. Pizza near work costs $7 a slice, and it tastes like drywall covered in ketchup. Great news. You decide to see if you could save money bundling at Progressive.com and enjoy more lunches far away from Kyle. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter
because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Football Full Circle right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius Channel 159. Lisi and Wetzel kicking it around for the next hour. Scott, some news and notes around the NFL. Cooper Kupp might be actually on the trading block. They play on Thursday night against the Minnesota Vikings. We'll see how that game does play out in LA. But the news of the week is DeAndre Hopkins now a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs did get the victory on Sunday over San Francisco as a 1.5-point underdog. Mahomes, very lackluster, 154 yards through the air, hasn't thrown a touchdown in back-to-back weeks. But with DeAndre Hopkins, that offense potentially could be humming in Kansas City.
Yeah, well, listen, if you go get Cooper Kupp or you go get DeAndre Hopkins, now I'll get excited. You know, they're getting a third wheel here, right, which is surprising for Kansas City. But listen, you and I could suit up in a Kansas City uniform and get passes thrown our way from Patrick Mahomes. So, but how much does he have left, Joe? 12 years. I'm surprised, according to the report, they're willing to give up a 4th-round pick for him, which is, pretty good. Considering, Hopkins is basically traded for the same thing. So, you don't take his same kind of salary that Adams has. But still, I'm not going to get too giddy over this. To me, it's just more alarming. Okay, Kansas City's, admitting, okay, we need some help at the outside. That's what I'm more concerned about. But I don't think he's going to make the difference.
No, think that they did have Marquise Brown potentially slotted as a week 1 starter, has been hurt, hasn't made an appearance yet this season. So now you need an added weapon. And big picture, Scott, I don't think it affects the Kansas City Chiefs from being a Super Bowl contender. As long as Pat Mahomes is under center come playoff time, the Kansas City Chiefs kick it up a notch just the way they did last year. And again, Pat Mahomes has the ability to make everybody around him better. I will say when you look at the Tennessee offense and the inability for them to even get the ball or force-feed it to DeAndre Hopkins or even their star Calvin Ridley on a week-to-week basis just shows you how pathetic Mason Rudolph and Will Levis were at the quarterback position, right? So if they're selling off parts right now, what does that mean big picture for Tennessee the rest of the regular season? They're sitting at 1-5, lost and got blown out by Buffalo. So this has more of a meaningful impact maybe to the Tennessee Titans moving forward than potentially the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's in the last year of his contract, 2-year deal he signed 2 seasons ago. So are they going to re-sign him? Probably not. Would he want to re-sign with them? Probably not. So I guess they figure at 1-5, Joe's season's done. We might as well sell off any pieces that we can get that we're not going to have next season anyway. So I get it. And listen, if you can get a 4th-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, I would do that in a heartbeat if I'm Tennessee. Absolutely. But I do find it amazing. Like all offseason, they're thinking Will Levis is going to be their guy. They devote the entire season to him. They give him, really 5 games since he didn't play this past week with Rudolph being in there. And basically they're ready to turn the page on this season already.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. It's actually, I mean, they let Derrick Henry walk to Baltimore, right? They didn't want him in that lineup. They bring in Tony Pollard to that offense. That was a head scratcher, considering they had the same type of running back and a younger back in Tajay Spears, right? With that lineup, they didn't want to keep Derrick Henry. They got away from the run, and they still couldn't elevate the passing attack. So Will Levis is done as a NFL starting quarterback. That's already being written. I agree with you. I think when we look at the wide receivers left, and I am intrigued to see what happens with LA tomorrow night against Minnesota, because Cooper Kupp, I still believe, could be an effective wide receiver. And if LA does win tomorrow night, they're 3-4. They have the ability to get back to 500. Right now, they're 6 plus 610 to make the playoffs, Scott. When you see the injuries to San Francisco, this is a winnable division now, and they already have the head-to-head against the 49ers. So why would you be apt to get rid of Cooper Kupp and just sell off now when you're basically hovering around 500 if you pick up this win over the Vikings?
Yeah, I don't know. Even if they lost, I don't know why you would want to trade Cooper Kupp. That combination of Puka on one side and Kupp on the other. Now, it didn't happen last year because of injuries. It might not happen again this year because of injuries. I get that. But with that, that's still out there. I mean, that's a great combination. If he's first to go, then is what, Matthew Stafford next to go? Are you going to tear the whole thing down? I don't know why you would tear a little bit down. So this might be the domino effect. He's the first one, but man, I just don't see that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, even if they lost, even if they bottomed out, with 5 wins, 6 wins, whatever the case may be, I still think he's part of your future. But maybe they're just tired of him being hurt all the time. Maybe that's it. But I tell you what, you put him now on Kansas City, like you alluded to earlier. Now we're talking like, you know what? Who's going to beat Kansas City? If you got Cooper Kupp healthy at the end of the year, who in the world would beat Kansas City? Nobody. Joe.
No, it would be tough. It would be tough, right? And then you sprinkle in Xavier Worthy, playoff Travis Kelce not living up to expectations in the regular season. But once playoffs hit, we know Travis Kelce will kick it up a notch. Let me ask you this, though, because potential landing spots. Let's say Cooper Kupp is on the move. Would Tampa Bay be an option? They lose on Monday night. They lose their starting 2 wide receivers. Evans is going to miss a month. Godwin's done for the season. This is a winnable division going up against Atlanta. They play Atlanta this weekend. So wouldn't you think Tampa Bay would be a nice option?
That would be pretty good. Yeah. What do you have to if you're going to give up a 4th-round pick for a 32-year-old vet?
They want a 2.
At least, right?
Right.
But I would do that, wouldn't you? I mean, I would be giddy about not having to give up a 1. If I can get him, I said the same thing about Devontae Adams, but I would do the same thing. I'll give up a number 2 for Cooper Kupp. Absolutely.
I would in a heartbeat. And I think that Tampa Bay, if you had Cooper Kupp and Baker Mayfield, now you're cooking with fire. The offense shouldn't lose that much in terms of productivity. You still have Cade Otton, Rashad White, and Bucky Irving in the running back position. You have the potential to at least challenge still for a division title. I think without Kupp, it's going to be an uphill battle. They have to make a move sooner rather than later, but it still gives you an option to maybe, and you might not even need both of those guys, right? If Cooper Kupp could live up to even 80% of the productivity that he showed at the end of the regular season last year and 3 years ago when they made the playoffs, that might be enough to at least allow Tampa Bay to challenge for the division, Scott.
There's 2 others. I mean, I don't know. People always say, well, you'd never trade within your own division. You know what? I got a feeling, Joe, anybody would trade with anybody if you're the highest price you're going to give me. San Francisco, with all their injuries now to the wide receivers, will Ayuk out? How about the Detroit Lions? I mean, we could play the fantasy game, but the teams that are on the cusp of like winning it all, would this be the final piece for finally the Detroit Lions You put him on one side or the other with Moss St. Brown. I mean, now you got some serious, okay. So those would be two teams I would think would be calling them up. I can't believe they would trade. I don't know who came up with the story. There's got to be some legs to it, but man, it just doesn't make any sense unless there's something behind the scenes that we don't know about.
I still like their price, Scott. We talked about it at last week they were plus 790 to make the playoffs. Now they're plus 610. Right. They get the victory over Las Vegas. You're getting basically a field goal on a short week with Minnesota. I don't think it's a layup that Minnesota wins this game tomorrow night. We saw them get beat up potentially by Detroit. This is a winnable game for the LA Rams. I mean, 3-4, that number will probably be down to at least 4-1.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to believe they're hearing all these rumors too, right? So that locker room may be saying, all right, guys, you know what? We lose, we go to 3-5, and then who knows where we'll all be in 2 weeks with the trade deadline being 2 weeks away. But if we win, I can't believe they would actually trade, our better players if we're sitting there at 4-4 and in first place in our division. So that group may think this is a win or else type of game for them, which, in a lot of ways it is.
Updated win total, Scotty, 6.5 at minus 134. Seems still a little bit light when you think about the parity within the NFC West. When Scott and I return, we'll dive into the Thursday night game and week number 8 of the NFL. Keep it where it is.
Don't look like an idiot at work. Know your stuff. Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Peloton plans to sell its deluxe stationary bike at Costco this holiday season as the company seeks to broaden its customer base. The Peloton Bike Plus, a stationary bike that enables riders to participate in online classes and work out with a virtual community of friends, will be sold at a discount online and in 300 Costco stores from November through mid-February. The model will sell in Costco stores for $1,999 and will require self-assembly. That's about $500 cheaper than buying a new bike directly from Peloton's website. Former Abercrombie & Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries, his romantic partner, and a third man have been arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. According to a federal indictment, for almost 20 years, Jeffries, his partner Matthew Smith, and their employee Jeffrey Jacobson used Jeffries' status, wealth, and a web of household staffers to fulfill the couple's sexual desires and keep it all secret. They reportedly would lure men into drug-laced, outlandish, and coercive sex parties by dangling the promise of modeling for the retailer's once-defining ads.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have a full tank of gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Lisi and Wetzel diving into NFL week number 8. Before we do that, Scott, I want to bring up the situation with the New York Jets. I don't know if you saw the report, but per head coach Jeff Ulbrich, Aaron Rodgers is now dealing with a hamstring issue that had flared up during the Jets' 37-15 defeat at the hands of the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday evening. So the hits just keep coming for the New York Jets. This was, I believe, per Sports Illustrated. So what do you believe about that now? Now, is this going to be the excuse why Rodgers can't lead the team back to a playoff run? Because now multiple injuries. This team and this organization are a complete train wreck. I've said it time and time again. I never bought into Aaron Rodgers and the Jets when he was healthy. I thought they were a 7-win football team at best. And now with only 2 wins in the 2024 season, they're gutless as far as I'm concerned.
Not only 2 wins, though. They've only scored, it's either 2 or 3 more points than what they did after 7 games last year with Zach Wilson as quarterback. Heading into this week, it was the exact same. I think they scored 3 more this week than what the Jets scored in week number 7 last week. So it's basically identical. With Rodgers back and Adams in there and this and that, it's the same old Jets. It really is, right? So I'm telling you what, and we're laughing at it, but I'm serious. If they offer you props on Aaron Rodgers, I would be betting the unders because he's not going to. I said this earlier with Ben yesterday. He's not going to last the season, Joe. He's getting killed back there. He can't move. The offensive line stinks, and he's not getting out of the way of all these shots. You give him credit, knock on wood, he's actually getting up. But boy, after every hit, he's getting up slower and slower and slower. I'm not surprised about the hamstring injury. There's going to be something. He's going to get hurt again. It's only a matter of time. So if you want to take advantage of that situation, bet under passing yards, bet under touchdown, whatever they give you. I wouldn't necessarily bet under on the team total, though, Joe, because, maybe the backup will come in and actually do better than Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes it's Taylor's by subtraction. He's not too bad, right? He's not awful.
No.
So
but here is the
Rodgers stuff.
Here is the problem, Scott, and I hate to keep banging this drum, but who's running the organization? Is it Ulbrich? Or is it, in fact, Aaron Rodgers? You can't tell me that the Devontae Adams move wasn't all Aaron Rodgers. You know how I know? Because he couldn't wait to showcase it on Pat McAfee that, when they coming off a disappointing loss, he couldn't wait to show that Devontae Adams was in the building like, look, I fixed everything. Now they lose and get their heads handed to them yet again, and now all of a sudden he's got injuries, right? And I've said this. At what point, what is the tipping point for those young players or the team to just say, you know what, I'm checked out? Because it happened in Denver, Russell Wilson, when Nate Hackett was coach. Remember when the offense wasn't helping out the defense and the defense was keeping them in games time and time again to the point where they just collapsed at the end of the regular season? Well, tell me why the same can't happen for the New York Jets. And the Jets are moving the football, but the defense now has regressed since Salah left, right? And now Aaron Rodgers is the only one that basically seems to be running the team. So who's to say he's not checked out? And then all the younger players say, you know what? I have to make a business decision.
Yeah. I mean, I said it last week. This has got like Leon Hess written all over it, Joe. I mean, I was there covering the Jets when Hess came in, fired Pete Carroll, made this big proclamation. He's tired of losing, just like Woody Johnson did. Brought in his guy, and what happened? He went 1-15 his first year there. Nicest guy in the world, Rich Kotite, but he wasn't the answer clearly. Then that's where this Jets team is going as well. It's deja vu, as they say, all over again. I don't know when it is. Are you committed to this same thing next year? Are you really going to devote another year to Aaron Rodgers? If this doesn't work out this year, you can't, right?
No.
I mean, you're going to have to eat his salary, but you could do that if you need to.
All right, but think about this. I want you to think of Sam Darnold wasn't the answer. Zach Wilson wasn't the answer. The free agent and trading of Aaron Rodgers wasn't the answer. So at what point does the organization look at themselves, and I'm talking about Woody, and be like, we need to take accountability? Joe Douglas has been basically non-existent through all these roster moves. Okay, they signed Hassan Reddick, and he's going to be there this week. Who's to say that that's going to be the saving grace for this defense? Because, again, Ulbrich is a fish out of water right now. He clearly is not running the team. I mean, did you see when he threw the instant replay review and Rodgers threw the flag back off the field, like, don't make the call? So I mean, you tell me, how could that be? How could they allow that to happen and expect that this team is going to be a playoff caliber team? 7.5 win total, I'll sell it.
It's been their MO, Joe. It's just that's what they've done. This organ, new owners, new head coaches, new GMs. It's the same old, same old. It's getting these things. Go back to Neil O'Donnell. Remember when they signed him, thinking he was going to be the answer. They're bringing in all these older quarterbacks, well past their prime, because they think they're going to win. They're incompetent, as incompetent can be as far as drafting and developing a quarterback. I mean, you look at Sam Darnold, you look at some of these quarterbacks that they've had. If Zach Wilson turns out to be a halfway decent quarterback, then you're really, as an organization, just got to look yourself in the mirror and just say, what are we doing, right? I think they blow it all. I think Douglas gets fired. Obviously, you don't bring Ulbrich back next year. You really just got to start all over again.
All right, well, let's see. Ready? They play the Patriots this week. Okay, then followed by the Houston Texans. Cardinals playing better on the road. They're on the road, the Jets. Cardinals just picked up the victory against L.A. Chargers Monday night. You can't say that's going to be a gimme. The Colts, Seattle, Miami, and Jacksonville. I see at most 2 more wins. At most, Scotty.
That's a pretty easy schedule. I mean, listen, if they're going to go backwards, then they'll lose those games. But is the opportunity there, to beat Jacksonville, to beat Arizona, to beat Miami? Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty easy. AFC East this year, that's the other thing. That they're blowing it, as the Dolphins are. They're all blowing it because the AFC East got lucky this year with the easy schedule. So if they can't win this year, then you really know they're going to be awful next year. And then when do you start deciding you want to lose, right? And get a number 1 overall pick or 2 or 3 overall pick.
I say after the Cardinal game, if they don't have more than 4 wins, they bail on the season, Scott. That's my assessment. We'll see how it plays out. We'll dive into week number 8, coming right back. Keep it where it is.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
And umpire Summers calls him safe on the daring maneuver.
1945, Jackie Robinson signs with the Montreal Royals.
Mr. Rickey told me one of the things he said early was that when your ball club starts to take up for you in certain situations, our battle is most of the way won. And
Robinson went on to play for the Brooklyn Dodgers, becoming the first African American to play in the major leagues. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
North Carolina State University researchers have discovered the secret of the fastest jumping backyard bug on Earth, the tiny globular springtail. It doesn't fly, bite, or sting, but with a tiny spring-loaded fork appendage under its abdomen to avoid predators, man, can it jump! Jumping 60 times its body length and spinning at 368 RPM, it can only be seen by high-speed cameras. This may be helping possible nightmare fuel research at Cornell. They're building swarms of autonomous AI-powered 3D printed quadruped insects powered by microscopic internal combustion engines. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
Remember, the Jets have one of the best defenses in the NFL, which is a load of Shaq. Remember, the Jets were going to the Super Bowl, and now the Jets are going nowhere. They're going nowhere, which is also going to hell in a bucket. At least they're enjoying the ride.
It's Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Farrell. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on the home of the winning edge, the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Lisi and Wetzel breaking down week number 8. We left off talking about the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I'll just say updated win total is 7.5 on the FanDuel Sportsbook, minus 110 either way. We'll dive into some of the bigger games this coming week. It starts tomorrow night, Thursday night. Scott, you got Minnesota on the short week. They went toe-to-toe with Detroit, lose 31-29. Now they have to go on the road, West Coast, short trip, against Matt Stafford and the LA Rams that picked up the 20-15 win over Gardner Minshew and the Las Vegas Raiders. O'Connell went down with the injury. They get the win and no cover. I'm still buying in. I think LA is going to be live here. I like them plus the 3, but I also like them plus 124 on the money line.
Yeah, I mean, a kind of moment of truth here also for Minnesota, right? They had a game they could have won. It was up, down, all the way sideways, everything else with Detroit. Emotional loss, right? Now you got to hop on the plane, as you mentioned, short week, go to L.A., playing a desperate team. Minnesota really is in that, San Francisco, Kansas City, Baltimore class. They find a way to win. Might not look pretty, but they find a way to win. If it's going to be like, all right, it's Vikings team, pretty good team, but we can't take them seriously, then they'll lose the game. I side more towards the latter. Let's see Sam Darnold now. Another situation, coming off a game, which, again, they could have won, but they didn't. You don't want to fall back into that trap, but I think they will, Joe. I think the Rams find a way to get it done. I think that, like I said, the Cooper Kupp rumors, maybe it will galvanize this team, and it's kind of like win now or else, and give me that desperate team at home, especially on a short week. Although Thursday home teams don't have a great record, believe it or not, over the last several years. But I do like them this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll say this, maybe Kyren Williams is a look. Minnesota had the second best rush defense after the game with the New York Jets, only allowing around 75 rushing yards per game. Last week, we saw a huge performance out of Jahmyr Gibbs, $116 on the ground, multiple touchdowns. He could also catch the football, same like Kyren Williams. That might be a factor as well. Maybe the front seven is starting to wear down in this matchup. The West Coast trip, I think, plays into that fact, so we'll break it down a little bit more in detail tomorrow night. A couple other intriguing games, Scott, get your take. Our Miami Dolphins are at home. Tua comes back. They're playing a team in Arizona that got the victory. It was a gutty home win over Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. Kyler Murray did not look good, but James Conner stepped up. They made enough plays. That defense shut down J.K. Dobbins and the rushing attack. Dolphins are 3-point home favorites over Arizona. 46.5 is the total. I have to be honest. I don't know if there's going to be any rust with Tua. I lean to Arizona, and I do like the over.
Yeah, listen, Kyler Murray's great as an underdog. Lousy as a favorite, but great as an underdog. And it's funny, the boys in Vegas, they posted this number like Sunday night when I started doing some of my prep work for the next week, Joe. And they had, Miami 3.5-point favorite, and the over-under was 48.5. I'm like, what Dolphin team are they looking at? 48.5? Right. What are you, nuts? And then we find out the next day, Tua's going to play. It's amazing how the boys in Vegas know before everyone else. But I do. Well, the numbers are so bad with Miami. They're 2 for 15 on fourth down conversions. And I would venture to guess most of those are, normal 4th and 2, 3, 4 yards. It's just one more indictment on the boy wonder genius, Mike McDaniel, and how much he's supposed to be this offensive guru. 2 for stinking 15 on fourth downs on top of all the other bad ones. I don't have any faith in him. I don't. Teams flying from the West Coast to the East Coast, again, opposite of what most people think, actually have a great against the spread record. So I'll take Arizona, especially if I can get a plus the hook, plus the 3.5.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, I just think they're a little bit more consistent. Too many question marks, expecting Tua to just come back and just light it up because he's back in the lineup. I think is a tough ask. There could be some ring rust. We saw it with Jordan Love coming back in the first game against Minnesota for basically 3.5 quarters. He struggled, did put up 389, but a majority of that was after they trailed by 4 touchdowns. So we'll see how that game plays out. Another big one is Philadelphia on the road in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow and this team looking to get back to 500. They grind out another gutty, ugly type of win. They've put back-to-back ugly wins against the Giants in Cleveland. They do cover as basically a 4.5-point favorite. I sort of like Philadelphia to win this game outright. We'll get your thoughts when we come back, Scotty. 47.5 is the total. Keep it where it is.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. Shop Chuck Sanders.
The NBA season tipped off last night with the defending champions Celtics blowing out the Knicks 132-109. Boston took a 43-24 lead out of the first quarter. Jason Tatum, 37 points. The Lakers beat the T-Wolves 110-103. Anthony Davis had 36. Game 1 of the World Series is this Friday night in Los Angeles with the Dodgers hosting the Yankees. Garrett Cole named the starter for Game 1 for New York. Jack Flaherty gets the start for the Dodgers. The rivalry dates back to the 1940s when both teams were based in New York. This will be the 12th all-time meeting of the Fall Classic, with the Yankees winning 8 times and the Dodgers winning 3. Most recently, 1981, when Tommy Lasorda led Los Angeles to the win. The teams have combined for 7 World Series titles since then, but none have come against each other.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Shop Macy's lowest prices of the fall today. For the season's best prices on what you need now. Save 40 to 60% on new styles to get you ready for cooler temps. Like cozy coats for your crew, the perfect sweaters for layering, and more fall wardrobe updates. Plus, don't miss amazing specials for you and your home. So good, they won't last. At Macy's. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the propane tank on your grill first before hosting a tailgate.
Let's fire up. Here, let me try. Seriously? You didn't check the propane? Who wants chips?
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Salt and vinegar?
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer.
You know what that means? It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Continuing the conversation, week number 8 in the NFL, we left off talking Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. This is a team in Cincinnati that could get back to 500. They're still involved in the AFC wild card race. They're open up as 2.5-point home favorites over Philadelphia. Philadelphia absolutely boat raced the New York Giants 28-3. Saquon with $175 on the ground, multiple touches in regards to that matchup. Scott, I think Philadelphia is starting to bounce back into form. I'm a big buyer of Joe Burrow. Big picture in Cincinnati. But again, I believe on the road, Philadelphia in this type of spot does strike the upside. I like them plus 128, but I like the over 47.5.
Yeah, it's just a tough one for me because I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I still want to buy into Cincinnati, Joe, but even last week, they scored 21 points. 7 of that was on a kickoff return. So they only scored 14 offensive points. They struggled the week before offensively against the Giants, scored, basically 10 points before that last touchdown run. I mean, so the offense has yet to click. They're 3-4. They're really lucky to be 3-4. So I'm waiting for the real Cincinnati Bungles team to step up. I love Philadelphia this past week. The whole world was on the Giants. All the trends said Giants. But sometimes you got to take a step back and say the Giants are not on the Eagles class. So I like Philadelphia. I'll probably play Cincinnati just because they're the home team. Jalen Hurts' numbers and stats are awful on the road, despite what we saw last week. Big emotional game for the Eagles last week with Saquon coming back here to New Jersey. A little bit of a, not really a letdown, but just a, letdown spot type of game for Philadelphia. So give me Cincinnati, pick them at home to get back to 500.
Yeah, now, are you buying into Cincinnati if they get back to 500 and win this game to be a player in the AFC? As we talked about their price to make the playoffs at the start of last week, it was minus 134 to the yes because of the schedule, knowing that Cleveland and the Giants were on deck. Are you still buying in now?
I am. In fact, if you gave me, 2 teams in the AFC, obviously one would be Kansas City. I would still take Cincinnati number 2. I'd take them over Baltimore. I would. I'd take them over Buffalo. Certainly take them over, I shouldn't say certainly, but I would take them even over Houston. I just think they've got the pedigree. They've shown it. We've seen it the last couple of years. 1 loss, 1 win, being able to go to Kansas City in the postseason and play well. I can't get that out of my brain. The potential's there. We've seen 7 games. They've not played well in really any of them. But I think when everything is said and done at the end of the year, Joe, if they can sneak in, that's a team that's shown they can win on the road. So, yeah, I'm still buying in on them.
I am too. I'm buying in maybe if they could get this victory. Again, I think it's going to be difficult for them, but if they do, in fact, knock off Philadelphia, especially the way the Eagles defense has been playing, right? I understand it was Cleveland and I understand it was the New York Giants, but they held both of those teams to a combined 10 points, or no, 17 points, because Cleveland got the garbage touchdown in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, that's not a bad effort overall, right? I mean, think about that. Just big picture. So we'll see how that plays out this coming weekend. How about this matchup? We talked about the Jets and New England. This is an intriguing one. Green Bay, who's been hot as a pistol, on the road against Jacksonville. Jacksonville picks up their victory in London. Doug Peterson is still the head coach. We know that they typically at least play better in Duval County. Plus 4.5. You think Jacksonville's live this weekend?
Yeah, but you know what? There's something rotten to the core. Even in that win, Joe, last week overseas, I don't know if you watched the game or not in the morning, but it's minutia. It's no big deal, but it's just one of these pet peeves of mine that these head coaches are idiots. They would fail a first grade math test. They would. Jacksonville's up 15, 11 minutes left. They have a chance to kick the field goal, make it a 3-score game, and for all intents and purposes, win the game. What does Jacksonville do? Peterson, he goes for it. They don't get it. And then the Patriots get the ball. They march all the way down the field. They score a touchdown, and if not failing at a 2-point conversion, what should have been a 3-score ball game over situation turned into what could have been a 1-score game. Those are the little things with Doug Peterson. It's like, that's stupid. It doesn't matter if you score a touchdown there or a field goal. Either way, it's a 3-score game. So why would you risk not getting the first down? I'm not a big fan of his. I don't know how the dude won a Super Bowl, but the fact that Philadelphia got rid of him so quickly after he did shows you a little something about him. So give me the Packers. I'll take Matt LaFleur any day of the week over Doug Peterson.
I love Matt LaFleur, but this has a field goal game written all over it for some reason. I think this is a pretty tricky line when you think about it because, again, Jacksonville hasn't looked consistent all year. We saw them come on against a one-dimensional team, even with Drake May in New England. 4.5, I could see Green Bay winning this game by maybe 3. Don't be shocked if it's a closer game than people think. 48.5, I don't know if I can get to the total, Scott. I lean to the under just because, I think Jacksonville doesn't want to get into a shootout because they've been inconsistent with Jordan Love. Jordan Love has struggled with interceptions as well. So give me the under 48.5. How about this one? We talked about Baker and Tampa Bay maybe being in the market for Cooper Kupp. They're 2.5-point home dogs against Atlanta. Knowing that Atlanta got blown out by Seattle, they're still the more complete team heading into this matchup. 45.5 is the total. I want to take Tampa Bay so much. I really do. But, how do they step up? It's just basically the fact that they're at home and the fact that they have Baker minus the weapons. Can Cade Otton and Bucky Irvin and Rashad White get it done? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm not so sure either, Joe. Atlanta's like Arizona, 2 peas in a pod. 1 week, they look like world beaters. Next week, they stink out the joint and couldn't beat Topeka High. I mean, go figure, right? So teams like that, Kirk Cousins, long history of doing better on the road than he does at home. So I don't have any qualms about supporting him on the road. I'll go with Atlanta. They played so poorly against Seattle. A game that you think you have to win. But without those 2 guys on the outside for Tampa Bay, and not that Tampa Bay's great anyway, but now you take away their 2 best wide receivers. Boy, I tell you what, if the Falcons can't win this game, then it's really like you're going to start hearing about. Get the backup in there. Where's Michael Penix Jr.? Don't look too far down the bench. If they don't win this week, yeah, absolutely. Despite all the money they gave
front runners, Scotty, to win the division. I mean, come on,
500. They'll be 500. How could they be the front runners?
What do you think? What do you think wins the division? 9-8 won it last year, wasn't Tampa Bay 9-8, and they won the division. So you got to figure 9-8 at the best for both for any one of these teams. Carolina is dead. New Orleans has no pulse, let alone Dennis Allen is dead man walking. They're 2-5. So it comes down to these two teams right now. And they already have the head-to-head over Tampa Bay. So
I mean, well, they wouldn't anymore if they lose this week. I mean, think about this division, Joe, and I mentioned this with Ben yesterday, right? Heading into the year, good optimism, like, okay, Atlanta's going to be better, Tampa Bay, Carolina, who knows, and obviously New Orleans may be a little bit better, right? And after the first 2 weeks, New Orleans beats the crap out of two teams, scores 90-plus points, Atlanta's looking good. I mean, everyone's all great on this division. And now here we are 4 or 5 weeks later, and it's back to being the NFC South, the worst division maybe in football. I think Don will win this division. Yeah,
we'll see. Rematch of last year's week number 17. Colts and Texans. Now, they played last year in Indianapolis, week 17. Obviously, they'll play each other both at home this year. 5.5-point home favorites for the Texans, 46.5. They get the loss to Green Bay. That game was right in the 2.5 number for the Packers, right? Depending upon when you booked it, the Packers covered or Houston covers. I actually like Indianapolis here. On the road, I think they can run it, shorten the game. Give me the under and give me the Colts on the road, Scotty.
Boy, Anthony Richardson's got to play a whole lot better than what he played last week. I'll tell you that. Give me Earl Morrall. If we find Earl Morrall / Joe Flacco, he looks exactly like Earl Morrall, number 15, right, for the Colts going back to heyday here. I'll take the Colts. Why not?
Got the team to the Super Bowl back in the day.
Yes,
we'll come back.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Peloton plans to sell its deluxe stationary bike at Costco this holiday season as the company seeks to broaden its customer base. The Peloton Bike Plus, a stationary bike that enables riders to participate in online classes and work out with a virtual community of friends, will be sold at a discount online and in 300 Costco stores from November through mid-February. The model will sell in Costco stores for $1,999 and will require self-assembly. That's about $500 cheaper than buying a new bike directly from Peloton's website. Former Abercrombie & Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries, his romantic partner, and a third man have been arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. According to a federal indictment, for almost 20 years, Jeffries, his partner Matthew Smith, and their employee Jeffrey Jacobson used Jeffries' status, wealth, and a web of household staffers to fulfill the couple's sexual desires and keep it all secret. They reportedly would lure men into drug-laced, outlandish, and coercive sex parties by dangling the promise of modeling for the retailer's once-defining ads.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Wendy's breakfast burrito has an entire breakfast in every bite. Fresh cracked eggs, seasoned potatoes, American cheese, cheese sauce, and sausage or bacon. So the first bite is like fresh cracked American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the second bite is like fresh American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the third bite, you get the idea. The boss of breakfast burritos, gotta be Wendy's.
Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Home ownership. At Progressive, we know it's part of the American dream. It's sea to shining sea, and water damage as far as the eye can see. It's America. It's freshly mowed grass and a fence that was freshly vandalized by a pack of unruly teens. It's America. It's also round-the-clock protection when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, which can help keep the American dream of home ownership alive and kicking. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Lisi and Wetzel breaking down week number 8. Left off talking about the Colts and Texans. I actually like the Colts, and Scotty, I think, leans to the Texans in the matchup. We'll see how that game plays out. Tennessee, Scott, on the road against Detroit. I mean, 10.5-point dogs. Mason Rudolph. This team now loses DeAndre Hopkins, right? The only way they can win this game is if maybe they run the wishbone and maybe get it to 6-3 in the fourth. Do you see any way they cover this number against the Lions? I don't.
Not on paper. I mean, maybe a letdown from Detroit, big emotional game win at Minnesota, but they play so well at home. The numbers are overwhelming. They're the best team in the NFL against the spread anyway. They could be playing on the moon over the last 3-4 years. They are it. Jared Goff, number one at quarterback. Crazy as it sounds, Dan Campbell. Again, Goofy Campbell going for 4th and 7 at his own 33-yard line this past week. I mean, what is this guy doing, Joe? He's going to blow. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with this goofball on the sidelines. I mean, 3rd and 7 from your own 30, or 4th and 7 rather, from your own 33, and you're going for it? I mean, come on, coach. I don't have any faith in them. But this week, yeah, I mean, how could you put hard-earned American money on Tennessee, right?
I don't know.
It's not Mike Vrabel. It's not Mike Vrabel keeping it really close, So, yeah, I'll lay the double digits.
Well, here's the thing and the issue for Tennessee. Forget the quarterback concerns. Okay, they have no offensive identity. Number one, are they a methodical ground and pound the way they were under Vrabel, or are they more spread it and throw it? With the supposed offensive weapons that they have. They just shipped DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City. Calvin Ridley, who was there, oh by the way, over the past 4 weeks has a total of 5 receptions. He had 1 against the Packers, 1 against the Dolphins, none against the Colts, and had none heading into the fourth quarter against the Bills and managed 3 for 42. How that guy could not get any touches? He gets targets, but he doesn't get catches. You tell me what's missing. Unless he goes off for like 100 yards in this game, how could you go toe-to-toe with Jared Goff in that offense?
Yeah, it's a hard sell. I'm surprised the number's not even higher. I would have looked at that line and thought Tennessee was the home team, to tell you the truth. But there's been a reluctance with the boys in Vegas to give us big numbers because, for the most part, it's been a failure with these teams laying a touchdown or more. Although we got quite a couple this week. It's hard. This might be one of those games where maybe they struggle for a little bit. Maybe for a half to kind of get the juices flowing there. Then second half they turn it on. Put on a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter and end up winning, 37-20, and it looked like they won going away when in reality they didn't. But that would be one of those in a 3-team tease, right? You get Detroit down to pick them. That would be leg number 1. Get 2 other teams, but right. Yeah, you can't bet Tennessee. You just can't.
I can't. It's back-to-back road games for them too. So They get beat up by Buffalo. Now you got to go to Detroit. I mean, I just don't see it getting any better. You might be able to get me in on the over just because that defense might give up 2, giving up 34 points to Buffalo. Maybe they give up 34 to Detroit or, 4 touchdowns at the least, and we could sneak through that total. We'll see. How about New Orleans and L.A.? Chargers 7.5-point home favorites. I don't know what you do with this game because I'm not a big buyer of the Chargers big picture. I think Harbaugh's the right guy. But I still don't think they're a playoff contender. They showed you that Monday night. That's a game they should have won. How does Justin Herbert throw for 370 yards, basically, and they don't have a touchdown to show for it? You tell me. I mean, unbelievable. He was throwing a Will Dissly on each and every play. 39.5 is the total, Scott. I actually want to take the over. That's my best bet in the game, over 39.5.
How about the Chargers with Cooper Kupp? Keep them in the same city, LA to LA, right? Would they do that?
Would they?
Yeah. Listen, if the price is right, Joe, yeah, why not? Why not? Right? If you're willing to give me a 2 and this team over here across the country is willing to give me a 3, go ahead, take them for a 2. Well, the days of worried about, them coming back to haunt you or whatever, it's not in the same division, so I would think they would be in the running for that. I got to see.
What about Pittsburgh?
I don't think.
What about Pittsburgh?
I mean, listen. Supposedly they were in on the Devontae Adams situation. Them in Washington. How about Washington? Same thing, right?
Dick Washington would do that.
He's got 2 years left on his contract. They guaranteed a lot of it. 75 of the 90 million is guaranteed, but not a lot of it. They gave him $20 million at the signing bonus, and then they paid him last year, and they paid him this year. So you're really only on the hook for about $13 million over the next 2 years, each of the next 2 years, which nowadays for a wide receiver is a great price. I mean,
right.
That's why it doesn't make any sense. It's not like Devontae Adams with the Raiders. At least you could say, yeah, but he was owed $35 million next year, Scott. So as much as we hate trading him, we're not paying him that kind of money. That is not the case with Cooper Kupp at all. You're getting a big-time wide receiver at a major discount for the next 2 seasons.
Yeah,
So
if they are
I think
going to
anybody
get rid
would
of
be in
him,
on it.
yeah, I mean, I would, the Raiders, why not the Raiders? I mean, they have to start over as well. I wouldn't mind having Jacoby Myers, Bowers, and Cooper Kupp, to start at least 2025. That wouldn't be a bad mix, right? I mean, you need to start somewhere. I mean, the veteran in that lineup, Cleveland's a mess. Baltimore's playing as well as anybody. And I said this, I thought Baltimore right now, from an offensive perspective, is as good as anybody. You want to throw Kansas City, you want to throw Detroit. I put my money on Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, the way that offense is humming. They're laying 9.5 against Cleveland. Jameis Winston will get the start. This is an ugly game. But I tell you what, I sort of like the 9.5 with Cleveland. Coming off the Monday night game, now going to Cleveland, Jameis, this has got ugly written all over it. I could see maybe Baltimore winning, 24-17? Ugly type of game? Would you take the 9.5 with Jameis?
I think I would. AFC North teams grab the underdogs in those games. They do well.
Yeah, we'll see.
They do real well.
Total is 44.5. We'll come back and wrap it up.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. Scott and I picked out some games for week number 8. Talked about a majority of them big picture. Obviously, on Friday, we'll give out all the picks for the upcoming weekend. Scott, just some other games that of note. Dallas and San Francisco, that Sunday nighter. San Francisco, a world of injuries and a world of trouble. Certainly not the same team that they were last year. We know Debo Samuel was in the hospital with pneumonia. Ayuk is done for the year. George Kittle banged up. Mason not looking like the same running back pre-injury that he was in the first couple of weeks of the regular season. But the bigger question, I guess, when you look at this is 4.5, right? So we have a team that's at home coming off an emotional loss to Kansas City. We have a team in Dallas that typically can't win at home, but wins and covers on the road for the most part. And I know that San Francisco has owned them, but I think I would take the 4. This is one of these. Close your eyes and take the 4.5 points. And when we get there at the finish line, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, San Fran's only 6-5, Joe, straight up. Forget about against the spread. 6-5 straight up their last 11 home games. And this was after a monster like 18-2 or 18-1 goofy run. I mean, they've just not been good at home. I can't lay 4.5. I know Dallas got crushed last year at San Francisco. Maybe that'll motivate them. You would think it would at least, get them mentally prepared to play, right? You would think after being embarrassed last year. So, but the San Francisco team is a shell of itself. And Brock Purdy, two people getting exposed here a little bit. Brock Purdy, unfortunately for San Francisco, the way he played against, Kansas City, and really the way he's played his last couple of weeks. And then, of course, our boy, Mike McDaniel, the offensive genius without the
Don't get me started, Scott. Don't get me started. I said this. When they lost that game to Indianapolis, I would have fired him on the spot. I've said that. He's a great pre-game planner. In-game, he's absolutely atrocious. And I'll throw one more about this game. If you're Mike McCarthy, you're feeling the heat, right? Jerry's coming out. They're calling him out on radio. They get blasted in this game. He might not be on the sidelines week 9.
Yeah, he hasn't fired guys, and Jason Garrett, more recent time, has had plenty of opportunity to be fired during the course of a season, and it never did. Never did. It's just a weird thing, Joe. I mean, you got Jerry talking about how they couldn't afford, Derrick Henry. Now it's, Derrick Henry's great in Baltimore because Baltimore, in essence, is better than we are. But he's making all these excuses. It's like, your team is worth billions and billions of dollars. You don't have to be a capologist genius to figure out how to put Derrick Henry under your salary cap. You just give him a 3 or 4 year contract and you're backloaded. If you can't afford to put his numbers in this year, that's fine. You just do it 4 years down the line and deal with it then. If you want to win, you do things like that. Hearing Jerry talk about how the team isn't any good, we couldn't afford. We're not talking a $50 million a year salary. You're talking about $14-15 million for a running back. It's so bizarre what's going on in Dallas. It really is just bizarre.
Well, think about this, Scott. Forget the Derrick Henry, and that was the right move from a free agent type of perspective or even a trading aspect.
Dallas.
Right. No, I know. But think about this. They passed on Braylon Allen, too, in the draft. How many rounds? 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round. I mean, Dallas had multiple opportunities. You knew that your starting lineup was Rico Dowdle. And that's not a knock on Dowdle. He's a good running back. But we're not talking about the second coming of Emmitt Smith, right? I mean, you have old man Zeke. You brought in Dalvin Cook that has yet to touch the football and make the active roster. So you tell me. I mean, here's the problem with Dallas. They have an identity problem. They miss Dan Quinn. Their defense sucks. And Mike Zimmer is completely confused. And that's on Jerry Jones because that was his guy. And he hired him as the defensive coordinator.
Yeah. And they show him on the sidelines. He doesn't look good, too, right? He really doesn't look good. There's certain guys that look good, okay, whatever. But poor Mike's, he's been through the ringer and back. I
don't see. I don't see it getting better. And here's the thing. If you can't win at home and you're getting blasted, now your product at home isn't even competitive. And now you're losing out from the revenue perspective, right? Why do fans want to go to a home game when you're getting blasted by 30 points? When it starts to hit Jerry's bottom line and the revenue stream isn't coming in, you'll see how quick he makes changes, right? So we'll see. Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow. Ben will be back. We'll be breaking down week number 8 for our great producer, Danny Ohlers. Scott Wetzel, I'm Lisi. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.